is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering The Dark Tower, Book 5, Wolves of the Calla, Part 2, Chapters 7 and 8. In these chapters, Jake finds out some of what's going on with Susanna, or shall we call her Mia? And Roland finds a brand new door. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Natasha.
I'm Miles.
We did 2 chapters this week for the first time in a little bit, and I'm really glad. The first chapter with Jake was I really enjoyed it just because we get so little of Jake lately.
Yeah.
So I was totally into that, but not a lot plot-wise happened. It's just him finding out a bunch of stuff that we already knew. So, getting to have a second chapter where Roland comes across another door, which I wasn't expecting at all. Did I say something at some point about, is he ever going to find another one of those?
I don't think you ever mentioned whether or not he would find, yet another. I think, you and frankly me, when I first read this, assumed that the doors were over.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I thought it was a special case for whatever stage of his journey he was on at the time, and then he would go ahead and move on, and the doors were just not going to be an option anymore. I kind of felt like some being or force had put them in place for him for that moment, and the idea that that still may be true, but the idea that they're hanging around other places, really, where Roland isn't and had been there for years. I think that was the thing that kind of really got me, was that he is talking to someone who has seen a person come through it, and the door didn't close after them, didn't disappear after them, I should say. And that is what happened with Roland every time. He went in, did what he needed to do, came back out, door vanished.
Well, yeah, all those doors were, named after specific people. They were this is the door into so-and-so's head, and it's as soon as you finish the side quest, it's going to go away. Mm-hmm. Whereas this is just, a door in this creepy-ass cave.
That's just hanging out there.
Just chilling, yeah. It's a feature of the landscape.
And also, there's spooky wailing of worst memories of your life just in the cave in the background. So that's not completely fucking creepy at all.
Nope.
Not a fan of that. So yeah, I really was surprised by this, and I really enjoyed it. So these are a couple of really good chapters. Podcast over. Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Done. That was the most normal intro to an episode that we've had in a year.
That's probably true. I'm not even going to argue on that one.
Anyway. Well, let's jump into this.
Let's do it.
We got a lot of ground to cover here.
Yeah, we do.
The first major thing to talk about is we're back with Mia. Mm-hmm. Walking through her castle, looking for food for her baby, only on this particular occasion, she's not finding any food. She's, instead of, just being able to go in and gorge herself, she's just, a bunch of empty plates.
Yeah, this made me really uncomfortable. There were so many things about it that made me uncomfortable. First of all, the fact that there's yet another voice happening that is not Mia's either. I'm hungry. Which is
hungry.
That is the shit that Owen and I say to each other when we're fucking with each other. The fact that this is an actual voice happening, I was kind of well, I don't know about this one. And also the fact that there is this sudden change to the landscape of her. And I guess what I assume it's lining up with is that she is having this vision of the castle that she's going through based on whatever is around her in life, you know? And so she's on a farm where there isn't like this amazing swamp full of living creatures to choose from.
Right.
So it looks like there's nothing here. But initially I wasn't seeing it that way. Initially what I was feeling was that something had gone wrong with her, and it was messing up her visions of what was going on. And I was waiting for things to go badly wrong in here. And she winds up finding this pig that she can eat, and that fixes it. But I really kind of wondered if she wasn't going to not find anything to eat and then go into some kind of like either a panic or wake up and find herself and then like realize that she was pregnant, like remember the dream, and it would be Susanna again, only now she knows.
Well, it's interesting because it's a little bit unclear like how much the way this is meshed in with the real world, quote unquote. Like the example I keep coming back to is the shirt she's wearing.
Yeah. Which
is a shirt of some like the shirt available to buy at your local restaurant, like your local barbecue joint, the Dixie Pig, and
which apparently Jake knows right where that is.
Yes,
which also kind of threw me, but
and I believe we have actually heard the phrase before.
Okay, because it did sort of ring, but then I was like, well, maybe it's just one of those names that just sounds like a thing that you know. You know what I mean? Yeah, no,
and God, if I'm spoiling this, I'm really sorry, but I don't think I am. There's a bit of graffiti on the, do you remember the graffiti near where the rose can be found?
Okay, yeah, yep.
Where, I'm not spoiling that, okay, where it's like, it's a song, and it's, I think it's, "Oh, Susanna Mio, divided girl of mine, done parked her rig in the Dixie Pig in the year of 99.
That's, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's ringing bells.
Yeah. So that's where we've heard that before. But, like, I'm betting Susanna doesn't own that shirt.
Oh,
like,
no.
That's not
I'm
a
sure
thing she's wearing.
Yeah.
So where does this, and, you know, of course, there's the whole thing that Mia has legs. And the thing that Eddie goes back to later on in this chapter, which is that when they went toe-dash to New York, Susanna had legs. And she had Mia's legs. And it's like, so where is this, you know...
Yeah, I don't care for it. It confuses the issue. I don't like it. I feel like worried that, and this kind of already happened, but I feel worried that Susanna's going to be in Mia and have her legs and not want to leave. And we already had that moment where she has her legs back when they went toe dash, and then they're gone suddenly. And I'm just like, oh, that was so painful right there, you know? I want Susanna to be okay, is really what it just comes down to. Like, the problems that everyone else is having are so external, and everything that's going on with her is so internal in the most literal way. She's literally pregnant with a demon baby inside of her body, and her brain is like falling apart. And I don't want that for her. I want better for her, you know?
Yeah. Well, especially because in these chapters she is pretty fucking badass in a couple of different ways. This is a good showing for her right now. So yeah, it sucks. It really sucks. So, let's see. She finds a pig. She kills a rat.
She apparently delights in killing this rat too. It makes Jake super uncomfortable.
Yeah. Which, yeah, we should mention Jake is hanging out watching this. So let's talk about Jake for a second.
Yeah, let's talk about how he suddenly has the touch really hard.
Yes, because this is... I feel like they've been hinting at it, like, kind of a little bit, but in this chapter, it's like, oh no. oh no, he's got the touch.
And it's treated like just a matter of course.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not, like, there's almost this sort of, like, tone to it as if I feel like Stephen King is treating it like he's mentioned this already. Mm-hmm. I'm like, no, you haven't. No, we did not know this. Why are you acting like this is just, like, it's just so cavalierly thrown out there, you know?
There's a couple things in this book. I like this book just fine overall, but there are a few things, and more on the way, where to me it's like, all right, dude, you like, you know, what happened in between? Because you just threw this in, and it's not really, there's no transition. There's no smooth, like, you know, move into this new part of your plot or new part of your world. It's just like, okay, we're here now.
Yeah.
Jake has a touch, and he can fucking read Roland's mind and pick out phrases.
Like, this is not just he's getting a little impression of things. He's going in and seeing full memories, sentences. I mean, it's just dropped in there. And I was like, all right, I mean, I'll roll with it if you say, but I'm definitely feeling like, did I miss something? Like, that's my feeling on it. It's just this moment of, did I miss something? You know? Mm-hmm. So I'm glad to hear you say that, because I sort of felt like you said there had been some hints, but it was never anything that was so overt.
Yes.
And I just kind of wondered if I had missed more clues than I thought.
We see him hanging out, like, watching Mia, which is right there. It's like, okay, well, he's seeing into her mind, right? Because, like, all that's happening in her head.
Right. She's
wearing that shirt in her head, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, she's actually pregnant, of course, but, you know. But when he has that conversation with Roland, and he what does he refer to him as? Is it Dandin, I think? And
Roland's like, where the fuck did you hear that? And he's like, oh, you know from your head like you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says, picked it up from your mind, I think. I don't go snooping in there or anything like that, but sometimes stuff just comes.
I just don't, like, really the thing that kind of got me on that is that Roland is the one that acts as if he's surprised enough here and there, but he treats it like it's something that he knew also, and just that he didn't know the extent of it. So the extent of it is what's sort of surprising to him, but the actual information is not.
Right.
And that's the part where I started to feel like I had missed something, was just, you know, Roland apparently is on top of this, so why didn't I know? Did I? Yeah. And I understand that part of that is just King writes Roland so that he isn't really surprised by things almost ever.
Yes, and if he is, he doesn't usually admit it. Right.
But it just felt like, even for Roland, like, this should have been, at least if he doesn't outwardly show that he's surprised, in the writing, I feel like it would have been explained to us. Roland hid his complete shock. And I guess he sort of says that, but it just doesn't feel as, like, intense to me as it deserves.
Yeah. And Jake also, now there's this little bit where with Jake, when he wakes up from the dream, when he kind of realizes that, when he realizes how, like, the extent to which he has it, you know, because he's like, no, that wasn't a dream. I saw something. And he starts knowing things, like, for example, he knows that Roland and Eddie are both aware of what's happening.
Right.
And he has no idea how he knows that. He also really feels really strongly that they should tell her.
But he dumbly is like, well, let me go and ask Roland's opinion and agree before he actually tells me that I will do literally whatever he asks of me.
And Roland's response to that, he's like, you were thinking about telling her, weren't you? And he's like, yeah. He's like, let me tell you something. If you were to tell her without my permission, that'd be the worst thing that could happen. Like, worse than all of us dying.
10 minutes later, he's like, well, it's not like I know what to do. I mean, what do you think? How do you fucking sit there and act like, oh, I can't believe you were going to violate me and tell her without my... And then in the same fucking conversation, admit you don't know what to do. Yo, man, just maybe the guy with the touch is the one you should be deferring to on this. Just saying. Maybe that guy who has like a really deep instinct about the way they should handle this when you have literally no idea and are being open and honest that you have no idea, which is not something you ever do. Maybe that's a fucking red flag and you should listen to him. But, God forbid.
What's funny about all this to me is that we've known for a while that Roland sees Eddie as filling the old role of Cuthbert, which makes sense. And we've known, and now we know that Jake has the touch, which is what Ellen had. And so I feel like it's interesting because I feel like part of the reason that Roland isn't surprised that Jake has the touch, like you said, he's surprised how strong it is because I don't think even Ellen was ever like a mind reader. But of course Jake has the touch because this is him and his friends again.
Right.
Like he is, the same thing is happening again. And I feel like Roland feels like he's on such solid ground with this. Like he doesn't know what to do, but he's been in this situation like functionally with these people before. And he just knows, and once again, he knows the best thing for him to do is to trust his instincts and be the leader, which is funny considering how that worked out for him last time.
True.
And it's like, he feels like he's on such firm ground, like he knows what to do, but it's like, dude, do you remember what happened to you the last time? If this is the same thing, then you're about to get boned really hard again. If you don't change something about your approach to this.
Yeah, I feel like what he thinks is that, well, it didn't go well last time, but I learned from my mistakes.
Right.
And so now, but it doesn't really feel like he learned from his mistakes.
It feels like he's doing the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
The whole thing in Wizard and Glass about how he wouldn't tell them anything until finally Cuthbert punched him in the face.
While simultaneously being real, like, shady about the fact that maybe I was disappearing into this pink ball and they didn't tell me.
Yeah.
Like I said, oh, does that make you uncomfortable? Like,
exactly.
I just have no patience for this man, I swear to God.
Eddie's having some impatience about the whole thing himself, and he's being conflicted as well. I'm not sure. He's just super conflicted. Like, there's not a whole lot. He's kind of, Eddie's chapters sometimes when it's like late and he's got something on his mind, and I like how consistent this is. They're very rambly.
Oh yeah.
His thoughts kind of go in different directions, and he contradicts himself, sorry.
You're right there?
Yeah, I'm good. I just knocked something over. As I was moving my hand in a kind of swishy motion. But he's just very, like, random things come in. He remembers random ass shit. I don't know. It feels very much like how I think about things.
Yeah, I feel like it's a really nice character indicator just how ADD he is. He cannot stay focused on anything. And he's just like, yeah, well, she's probably, oh man, do you remember that rib joint? I really like that place. What street was that on? That street name, I think, reminds me of that album. And all of a sudden, yeah, there are moments like that on the internet where you like go online to find something and an hour later you're like, wait, what was I going to do?
Right.
And you've wound up so far off base where you intended.
Yeah, and he's really worried that she's gonna like eat one of Tia and Zalia's kids or something.
Oh God, listen, I'm not gonna say the thought hadn't occurred to me. I'm a little concerned that she might eat Oi. I have to admit, if that happens, podcast over. The end. I'm not coming back. That's just gonna be it. Because I can't. If she eats Oi, that's just the end of that. All done.
Yeah. That'd be terrible.
But because she's like, eats this fucking pig, but she is saying while she's eating it that this isn't the thing that she wants. Right. That there's something very specific she's looking for the chappie. Yep. And she knows that whatever it is, it's not this. I really just hope it's not a fucking really smart belly bumpler that she needs or something.
I'm at, if it were like Jake, that'd be fine. You know,
to be honest.
I don't think if it were Jake, you would quit the book.
No, I wouldn't. Like that, I feel bad about it, right. And I am judging myself about it. But it's true. If it were Jake that she ate, I would be much more okay with it than if it were Oi. That's just a fact.
Yeah, I definitely hear you.
And Jake also, I was a little concerned about here because he's in her dream with her, and I wondered if she could see him, and if the fact that there was no food, but then there's this boy over here, was going to be the thing. But It turns out that I thought that he was actually, that he was following her in the real world, watching her acting strangely. I didn't know that he was in the dream itself, so there's really no way for her to like get her hands on him and hurt him in this.
Well, it's funny because Eddie is paying attention to her physically. Eddie knows that she's not next to him and is like trying to figure out where she is and listening to make sure she doesn't hurt anybody.
Right.
Jake has no idea where she is physically, but he's in her head. He knows what's happening in her mind. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting like dichotomy there. It's funny. I'm looking over this Jake section when he first wakes up and realizes what's happening, and it makes me so mad that because of what happens later with Roland, because like this section, he guessed he understood why Roland wasn't telling Susanna about Mia and about the baby, what Mia called the chap. But didn't the gunslinger understand that something far more important had been lost and was getting more lost every day this was allowed to go on?
Mm-hmm. And he doesn't fucking mention that when they have their conversation?
Yeah, he thinks they know better than you. They're grown-ups. Jake thought that was bullshit. If being a grown-up really meant knowing better, why did his father go on smoking 3 packs of unfiltered cigarettes a day and snorting cocaine until his nose bled? If being a grown-up gave you some sort of special knowledge of the right things to do, how come his mother was sleeping with her masseuse who had huge biceps and no brains? Why had neither of them noticed, as the spring of 1977 marched toward summer, that their kid was losing his fucking mind? And, you know, this isn't the same thing, but what if it was? What if Roland and Eddie were so close to the problem they couldn't see the truth? What is the truth? What is your understanding of the truth? That they were no longer quartet. That was his understanding of the truth. Mm-hmm. And like this all rings so fucking true, because he goes on to think like if we're together we can win this, like we can beat this scenario. Mm-hmm. But But he also comes to the conclusion that he's not ready to like make a move on his own like this.
Yeah. And
he folds so easily later on. It's really disheartening.
And like, you know, how old is he supposed to be? Like 12, 13
like 12,
years old?
Yeah.
So like on the one hand, I get that. He's still at that age where he's questioning adults and their capacity. But he really still, in his heart, is a child in a lot of ways, and still fundamentally really seems to believe, yeah, they do know best, probably, though. Even though he's questioning it, it doesn't feel like it's sunk in. Mm-hmm. So I get that. I definitely get that. But I just, even if it wasn't I'm not even mad that he doesn't just go tell her, because it's a big step, and I understand why he didn't take it. But the fact that he doesn't bring up to Roland in very specific terms what he's thinking here, which is that you keeping this from me and from her is fucking up our relationship with each other. Mm-hmm. That is a really salient point that I think Roland senses to be true also. I don't think that's just Jake. And I wish that that was something that they actually discuss, because they don't. They just talk about, like, what should we do? And in this abstract way of like, well, what could happen if we handled it this way or that way? And I'm like, if the issue though is that your kata is breaking and that is what will get you all killed, all of your fucking chatting about this is irrelevant, because you know what you need to do and you need to inform her. The end. But y'all are just dancing around this issue as if there isn't really only one choice, and acting all fucking conflicted when there's no conflict. You're both separately thinking a lot of the same thoughts in regard to the situation.
There's some great moments in their conversation when, because at one point Jake is like, why not just tell her?
Yeah.
And Roland is like, hey, listen, here's an anecdote. Do you understand what this anecdote means? And Jake's response in his mind is, I understand that you're avoiding a very simple question.
But he doesn't say that shit out loud, does he?
Yeah, and Roland is like, blah, 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 something about Ka, and Roland's like, yeah, or Jake's like, that's not helpful.
Yeah.
He said, you know, and that's when Roland is like, well, what do you think we should do? And and then there's this weird moment where Roland is like, I don't even, do you think I like that I'm in charge here? Do you think I want to be the Din and all that? And like, it just really seems like, and Jake says, when Roland is like, all I can do is say again what I've said already. When one isn't sure about Ka, it's best to let Ka work itself out. If one meddles, one almost always does the wrong thing. And Jake says, that sounds like what folks in the Kingdom of New York call a cop-out, Roland.
Accurate.
Which I love. And then Roland's like, okay, you know what? I'm your fucking leader, and you're going to do what I say now. And he does say, like, the only way he does get Jake to calm down is he says, look, we'll tell her before the wolves come. Which sure, I guess.
I mean, if that's the thing, just do it then. Because isn't it better for her to have the information as early on before the wolves arrive as possible, so that she can adjust to that knowledge and then be centered again and ready once they get there? I feel like the worst possible thing is to be like, oh, okay, the wolves are getting here tomorrow, so real quick, you're pregnant with a demon baby. Okay, right. Ready to go? Everybody good? That's just the worst thing I could think of.
And then he gets Jake to spy on her.
Oh my god.
Using the fucking touch. And Jake is like he's like he's confused, and he's like, God, I feel like this feels like I've just been talked into doing the exact opposite of what I wanted to happen, but okay. And Roland is like, yeah, I did that to you.
Isn't it weird how the thing that you didn't... Come on. Listen, you both are just... I'm just really not impressed with either of you today.
We should also mention there is one very important thing that happens in that first chapter with Nocturne, and that does advance the plot to a certain extent, which is that Jake notices that Andy, the robot, is having a little chat down by the river with Ben Slightman the Elder.
Yeah, I don't like this at all. I don't know what it means, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But I'm not a fan of it.
Well, you don't like Andy. You're on the record.
Andy is a creep. Like, just straight up, Andy creeps me out. Andy is a creep. Eddie agrees with me. Eddie got the creeps alone with him in the woods and was like, hey, you know what would be cool? Not being alone with this fucking creepy machine anymore.
Seriously.
So there's something up with him, and I don't know if it's that he's like I have so many wild half-formed theories about him that it's just not even worth me saying any of them.
Aw.
But really, like, what is he doing wandering around just having conversations with people in the dark? Don't care for it.
Yeah, and then after they're done, I think it says crosses the river and heads east, which is weird.
Yeah.
And Jake is trying really hard to justify reasons why this might be happening.
I mean, Jake is trying to justify fucking everything, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not. He's feeling a little bit sorry for himself, and he just really, like, he's very uncertain, and he doesn't want to deal with how uncertain he is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's his deal right now. So let's see, moving on, as you predicted, we learn what Eddie learned from Grandpa in this chapter. So that's nice.
Right. Mm-hmm. Why doesn't anybody talk to each other? Holy shit, guys.
Wait, no, we don't. There's a line somewhere where Eddie is like, should I tell him? Nah, he'll ask me when he wants to know.
I mean,
like, fuck you.
I just do not understand what has suddenly happened. And I think this is supposed to be, the cot tap broke. I mean, I guess. But, like, it feels like everybody's acting like idiots. It's not just like the cot tap breaking in a vacuum.
Right.
You know what I mean?
They're doing things.
Yeah. It feels like when you say the quartet broke, you make it sound like this cosmic, like, well, the bond of unity, but it doesn't feel like that. It feels like people have just started to make stupid ass decisions.
Yeah, they're keeping secrets and they're not communicating.
And so it doesn't, like, saying the quartet was broken is really passive. You broke it. It didn't break. You broke it. You did it.
Right.
Don't tell me. Listen, I'm up in my feelings tonight a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
It's all good, dude. It's all good. Let's so Roland and Jake have this really frustrating conversation, and then they show up to where Eddie and Susanna are hanging out at the Jaffords' place.
Mm-hmm.
And Roland shows up and asks Zalia specifically the do you ask Aiden Sucker question, to which she is like, yeah, I do. And asks her specifically if she will throw the dish.
Yeah.
When it's time, and she's like, fuck yeah, I will.
I love that so much.
And her husband is like, hugs.
Her husband is off to the side, like, you could hear him gulp, basically.
Yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, that's pretty badass, though. Can't even be mad.
Yeah. And also, Roland asks her to teach Susanna how to throw it.
Yeah, I figured that was because, like, he points out later, he only has the 3 guns. So I figured they were going to have to do something.
Right.
And, you know, it seems to be a women's weapon as they see it. So it makes sense.
Like Tears and the other one, according to George R.R. Martin.
Listen, no, according to Cersei.
True. Fair enough.
He literally had those words spoken through the mouth of his craziest character, so that's something.
That's a very good point. I heard oh god, this is so off topic. I heard did you ever see any of the Evening with Kevin Smith movies?
No.
So you know Kevin Smith though.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So he has that movie Chasing Amy, which has as its central plot point a lesbian falling in love with a dude, basically.
Right.
And so the Evening with Kevin Smith series is a series of like Q&A sessions that he gave at colleges across the country. And I haven't seen the third one. The first 2 were pretty fun. Kevin Smith seems to have generally fallen out of favor, which, okay, sure. I don't know. The evenings are great. But at one point, somebody, a woman stands up and says that she had a real, I think she said she was gay, but she had a real problem with Chasing Amy because she felt that it sent the message that all any lesbian needs is a good deep dicking, in her words.
Yeah.
And I loved Smith's response, because Smith is like, look, I hear what you're saying, but there's a character in that movie who's an idiot. He is the idiot character, and we have him say that. He's like, we put those words into the mouth of the guy who's always wrong. Mm-hmm. Which I appreciated. I feel like, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, that's something that I feel like can get lost a lot of the time with, there's just something to be said for context. Shocker.
Yeah.
When a certain people will phrase things, I think, like when they're reporting on them and when they're trying to have their clickbaity headlines, as if this being included in the storyline is a tacit endorsement of this position. And it's just, that's something that, I don't know if you watched Insecure, but
What's Insecure?
Insecure is a TV show on HBO that is centered around the lives of two middle-class black women and their struggle in work and in dating. And it's really very specifically like the black viewpoint and the kind of shit that they have to deal with at work, and just the particular kinds of prejudice, but it's treated with humor and exasperation, and not as it's a very emotional show, but it's done really in a human way. And that's the whole point of the show, is to show actual human beings struggling with something that is with the mistakes that they make as regular people. And sometimes they make the wrong choice. And every time a new episode aired, there were these think pieces coming out talking about how the show was endorsing such and such by having it on there. And it's like, dude, no. Like, if you can't watch this and see that the person saying this is being treated as if she's an idiot when she says it, I don't know what to tell you. It's very clear that the writers are saying this like the person who has this viewpoint is probably a little bit backward. Right. But there's, like I said, these think pieces out on all these websites about a couple of very specific episodes that dealt with like sexual issues and stuff. And they are showing the way that real people with flawed perspectives talk about these things. It's not some round table of professionals with, PhDs in this subject matter talking about it. It's regular human beings who sometimes don't know what the fuck they're talking about, sharing their opinions freely with their friends and being wrong. And that's fine. Sometimes and I understand this. The fear for a lot of these people writing these articles is that, but what if the people watching don't know it's wrong?
Right.
What if guess what? That's life. Sorry.
You have to trust your audience.
Exactly.
You just have to. God, I one of the movies we saw the other night at the all-night horror movie fest that we went to was Tales from the Hood.
Oh
have you seen that?
No, I have
you
not.
seen it?
Mm-mm.
Oh my god, it's Black Tales from the Crypt, essentially.
Nice.
And it's got like Clarence Williams III and all these great actors in it, and like it's social commentary as much as it's also funny and like horror-y. Mm-hmm. But I swear to God, Natasha, this movie is about like white cops killing innocent black people. And it's about fucking a dude who was in the KKK running for governor. And
so it's about 2017's political
climate. It came out in 95.
The world has not changed much.
I know. It's amazing. I'm sorry. That has nothing to do with anything. I just had to... I remember thinking, like, I have to tell Natasha about this. Because, like, it is really insane that this movie came out in 95.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I was saying to a friend of mine when I was reading up on the Civil War, and they're having the same fucking conversations 200 fucking years ago. I mean, if I changed some of the, like, inflection and wording, you would never know that it wasn't from today. The same arguments about paying a living wage being just unreasonable to manufacturers and, you know, well, by abolishing slavery, you're going to destroy business and the economy will collapse, and then where will we be? Like, and I mean, Jesus, you know, it's same conversations. The world changes. It does change, but like so slowly. It's almost imperceptible.
It's pretty crazy. It's pretty fucking insane. So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Hi guys.
I'm very proud of this episode. It took us a long time to get to our first tangent of the night, like our first major tangent.
See, this is what like
about, like, did you see this movie that has nothing to do with the book that we're reading? Tangent.
Well, this is like what people are, because I think Alan said something similar the other night. He's like, "Oh, that's our first tangent. We're doing pretty well." I'm like, "I don't know what you mean. Tangents are the part I like the best.
No,
that's why I do the show."
I almost mean it as an indictment, like, you know, hey, like let's take some of the focus off, huh?
Right?
It took us so long to get to our first tangent. Like, come on, what are we doing here? What are we doing here if we're not even talking about these books? So. Yeah, Susanna's going to learn how to throw the Riza. So Roland heads out with the quartet, all of them in this case, although not fully intact, as we know. And he is going to go see Henchik, who is the din of the Manny.
Right.
And he is going to go hang out with them, and Henchik is going to show him something. This cave called Doorway Cave, which has to do with the doors, has to do with Callahan, which we already mentioned a little bit, and we'll get back to it in more detail a little later on. Meanwhile, Jake, Eddie, and Susanna are going to go shopping.
Yay!
They're going to go to Took's General Store.
I was really hoping for a little bit of a montage here. Trying on different shirts. One of them going, no, yes. But we don't get that.
We don't get that. We do get Roland giving everybody some spending money. And talking a little bit about how he feels like things are pretty much looking up. You know, like people are generally, in Roland's opinion, probably gonna fight. Or at least ask them to fight for them, which is what they're for.
Yep.
So yeah, so we get the shopping trip first, and Eben Took, or Eben, I want to say Eben Took, whatever the fuck his name is, the Hobbit guy, is just a real dick.
Yeah, he is.
Like, this whole thing is about how much of a dick this guy is, and like we've heard about him. And how he'll never vote to stand up and fight. You know, so like we're already predisposed not to like him because he's not an ally of our heroes. But he's just a dick. He won't let Oi into his store. You know, assumes that they're going to try and pay him with credit. And like everybody else in the store seems pretty into these guys.
That's my favorite part, is that it takes him so long to like take the temperature of the room.
Yeah.
And by the time he does, it's too late. He already has made himself look like an asshole. And it's not like it's too late, like there's been a lot of damage done, because it seems like everybody is sort of understanding that he's just a dick anyway. But I just like for him to feel like an idiot is, you know, what other people think about it is much less important to me than him being a little bit ashamed of himself. And it seems like he is a tad. So
maybe a little bit.
I mean, he gets red at one point because Eddie, like, he tries to not sell the tobacco to Jake and is real, like, fucking smug about it. And then Eddie's like, well, you know, my friend there really likes to smoke now and then when he's saving everybody's fucking lives.
That's right.
And he kind of gets red.
Out ways to help folks in need.
Yep. Or when they first walk in and he's like, you're not getting anything on credit, you sons of bitches.
Right.
And they're like, well, of course we're not. We would never. And then he feels kind of an idiot there.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm not mad at you.
There's a couple of great Susanna things in this scene in particular. The first one, which is, I just love, is Susanna opens the pickle barrel and picks one out. And Eddie says, I might have gotten something that green from my nose once, but I can't really remember.
Ugh.
And Susanna's response is a very sweet, don't be grotesque, dear one.
That is a very good response.
I'm totally going to use that sometime. Next time Sharon's gross.
How often is Sharon gross? Is that a thing she does?
Occasionally. You know, she's rarely gross in the presence of others. You know, like she contains her grossness.
Okay. As
I imagine many of us attempt to do. But yeah, she can occasionally be oh my god. So Tom Petty died either yesterday, I think, or Sunday. And I was really upset about it because, like, I grew up with Tom Petty and I love Tom Petty, and it almost upset me, like, more than any of the celebrity deaths that happened last year because I love Tom Petty so much. and Sharon, I swear to God, I told her how upset I was about this, and I was like, I wasn't playing around, like, I was upset about this. And she puts her arm around me. She goes, "Oh, honey, is that heartbreaking?" And I'm like, "You get the fuck out."
Well, that's not so bad. I mean, like, I guess so she was just being really sarcastic about it?
Well, no, his band is called Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Oh, yeah, that's messed up.
I was like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, that's messed up. I see you on that one.
Oh, it was so callous and insensitive. And I just, anyway. Yeah, she's a wonderful person and always beautiful and never at all gross, dear. You're probably not listening to this, so I think I'm safe. Anyway, so I totally lost where I was.
It's okay.
That's what happens now.
Well, we were just talking about the pickle.
The pickle. Yeah, that was one of the great Susanna moments, and the other one is when he calls Susanna Brownie.
Oh, that was my favorite part,
This is not the first time she's been called that, as I'm sure y'all remember from that one time where I totally glossed over the fact that she was called that and had to be reminded and felt really bad about myself. But, yeah, she took it before because they needed something from that dude.
And as she puts it, he was not in full capacity either.
Yes. This guy is in full capacity, and they just already bought all their shit.
Mm-hmm.
So she takes his thumb and almost breaks it and bends it all the way back until he is, like, kind of shrieking.
That's the best thing ever.
She says, "I'll take that word from an old man who's lost most of his sense, but I won't take it from you. Call me Brownie again, fatso, and I'll pull your tongue out of your head and wipe your ass with it." Which sounds awful.
That is very vivid image. Like... That's a statement she's making right there.
Yeah, and he's like, okay, oh god, I'm sorry. So,
yeah, and I like the fact that, like, she did it in such a way that not everybody could see it, but, like, enough people could see it. Just kind of to send the message of, like, yeah, I'm not gonna put up with shit, and I don't want to humiliate this guy. That's not my goal here. But if word, like, gets around,
I ain't gonna complain.
Yeah, if, like, you kind of whisper to each other about it, fine. Which I feel her on that. So yeah, I this just was very, very satisfying because this guy had just been a dick for too goddamn long in this scene. And they responded in a very patient way. And sometimes I am not patient. Shocking, I know. Everybody, calm down. I'm pretty sure that there was an audible gasp from the audience when I said this. And I just want to see somebody get a little bit fucked up. It's not like, it's just... Sometimes that's the only language that certain types of people understand, too, is the other thing. It's just like being like explicitly with actual physical pain told, I am not going to put up with this. Mm-hmm. And there are certain people that's all you can get through to them with. And he definitely seems like that kind of person. So
yeah, well, they get their shit and they put him in his fucking place.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go hang out with Roland and Henchik of the Mani.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to what you think about this dude, because I think he's interesting, but I also kind of want to push him over the cliff.
Yeah, he's like, he sort of reminds me of my dad in a way, in that like he's just got. I want to
push your dad over the cliff.
So did I. Like, not lying. Love you, Dad, but you are often the worst, and I'm sure you know that. And my dad, like, this thing where he's like, well, she's damned. She knows it. She'll have to deal with it at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, I asked my dad to perform the... What?
Talking about his daughter, who Margaret,
right.
who married out of the family, or out of the clan.
And at one point, before Brendan, I was engaged to somebody else. And I asked my dad to perform the wedding ceremony for the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
And he wouldn't do it because we weren't Christian, which was super hurtful. This was my dad, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't even like he was like harsh about it. And once I kind of like gave him a look and was like, really? Then he started to backpedal and be like, well, maybe I could, you know, but it was just this sort of vibe of like, yeah, all right, you know what? Never mind. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, like, conviction that he has on some level, there's also the superstition.
Yeah.
That is the thing for me that really feels like my dad. Because he was a man of faith, but also, like, not. Like, he would also do and say ridiculous fucking medieval shit. And this guy doesn't even want to tell Roland what happened. Like, he doesn't even want to talk to him about it. Not really. Roland has to really push him and be like, if you want my help, you need to tell me in detail everything that happened, because if there's a detail that Roland doesn't have, that could be really important. And, like, it turns out, oh, hey, the box with the fucking orb was open, and as soon as I closed it, the door slammed shut and we couldn't open it anymore. Yeah, that's a fucking important detail, buddy.
That's good to know. How
are you planning on telling the story and leaving that out? Holy shit, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, he's the kind of... Like you said, he's got conviction, but he also has really deep faith, and that can be very powerful and very dangerous. Mm-hmm. It's like when you're like, no, I am, because that's a recipe for I am never wrong,
right? You know,
so I don't know. It's a little bit, like I said, I think he's a very interesting character, and I always appreciated this type of character.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I'm glad we don't have to spend too much time with him in this chapter.
Same.
Did you ever see Pride and Prejudice or read the book? Are you a Jane Austen person? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm somewhat. Yeah.
I love there's that BBC miniseries from the 90s that I really love, with Colin Firth in it. And I always go back to that version of it. I mean, partially because that version of it practically mirrors the book, but I love the bit where Elizabeth is supposed to, her mom wants her to marry the one dude, and you know, has to go, and she won't do it, so she has to go appeal to the patriarch, to the father, and she's like, yeah, you know what, honey, you're in a really rough situation because your mom says she'll never see you again if you don't marry this guy, and I'll never see you again if you do.
I forgot about that. That was pretty good.
Anyway, so they go up, Henchik and Roland go up this like steep ass cliff to find this door, and this is the door through which Per Callahan appeared.
Right.
He showed up. He was basically unconscious. He was like muttering to himself in his sleep or something.
Mm-hmm.
Showed up. There was a box. The box was open. The door was open. Like you said, as soon as they closed the box, the door closed.
Right.
And of course, in the box was Black 13.
And when the door closes, the dude who was who was walking towards it starts pounding on it and screaming for them to let him in.
Yeah, and he died like 2 years afterward.
For some reason, that fucked me up. Like, it's not that he closed the box, the door slams shut, and the guy comes out of his reverie and is like, oh my God, thank you, Jesus, what just happened to me? He is still in it in his head and is dying to go through that door. Literally.
Oh, well, hey. This is an October spooky episode of the Dark Tower podcast.
I should have. My mom got me for my birthday like a bunch of like weird little Halloween things, and one of them is a sound effects like pocket sound effect board for Halloween that has like witch laugh and wolf howl and creaking door and things like this. I need to keep that at my desk because 'tis the season, and I'm gonna have to start including those sound effects in every episode, and it's gonna be really annoying. So get ready for that, guys.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yes.
You'll be fine.
There was also I'm guessing it was a tape recorder that they found. Calls it a speaking device,
right?
That runs on batteries. Does the Ken Duracell gunslinger, which I kind of loved.
Yeah, when he first said batteries, it's spelled in such a way that I was like not realizing what he meant. Yeah, and then when the parentheses batteries, I'm like, oh, right.
So while this machine, and they say they found this tape recorder first, right? Because that's why they went up there. Isn't that what happened?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And while it worked, because the batteries died, but while the batteries were working, it said the same message over and over again, which was telling them they should go up to the Cave of Voices and find a man, a door, a wonder. There was also a song. We played it once for the pair, and he wept. Which I'm guessing we know what that song is.
Do we?
And I mean, I would assume it's Someone Saved My Life Tonight, given that's the
right
the big one from his story. But maybe it's something else that I have forgotten from the rest of Per Callahan's story, which we'll be talking about next week. So yeah, and I think that's about it. They want to go back down, and talks a little bit with Henchik, and they kind of part as, not friends, but they're amiable. Yeah,
it feels like they have reached an accord.
Yes, we have an accord. Yeah, and then they go back down to Callahan's house, and we are officially ready for the Priest's Tale concluded, which will be next week's chapter, and it is, I believe, a long-ass chapter.
Okay. Noted. Well, yeah, I didn't even realize that there was more to his tale, but, I should have. I think that there's just a lot to take in this book.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't be too surprised that I'm constantly, oh, yeah, more. Okay. Yeah. Tell me.
Yeah. The next chapter is longer than both the two we covered tonight combined.
Whoa.
So, yeah.
All right. I can give myself some extra time on that one that night.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, I want to say hi to some new patrons. This week we have Seven Bear Sarah. Great
nice.
Name.
I love that name.
Ashley Ways and Darcy Meadows became patrons. So welcome to you guys. A couple of you are $5 and up, which means that you will get access to the Twin Peaks episodes I'm doing with Maggie. A couple of you are $10 and up, which means that you are going to be getting the October patron postcard. I am asking forgiveness from everybody who was a patron for September. The postcards for September are going out a little late because my birthday was over the weekend. And
happy birthday!
Thank you! And I totally slacked off on filling them out. I have them all addressed and everything, but I do not have them written out. So they will be going out a little later than normal. Normally I do them in the last week of the month. And I know there was another thing that I was going to mention. We reached our goal on the GoFundMe for the trip for me and Rashawn to Orlando. Which is amazing. And a patron immediately commented, you should raise the goal so Rashawn can get her own room, because Rashawn is going to be staying with Owen and I in the same hotel room to cut down on cost. And Rashawn is somebody who really values her solitude. And she lives in a 1-bedroom with her husband, so she doesn't get it pretty much ever. Like, her solitude is when she goes to the bathroom at work, kind of thing. So I think it would be awesome for her if she was able to take this trip and really be alone for some of it. I know she doesn't actually mind sharing with me and Owen. She's just excited to be going, but it'd be really cool. So when somebody suggested that, I was like, that is a perfect idea. So I raised the goal again. We still have 2 whole months to go before we leave. So I am confident that we can reach it. And if you're interested in donating, it's on GoFundMe.com/unspoiledHPWorld. No spaces or dashes or anything. Unspoiled HP World. And yeah, I will put whatever money we get from that into getting Rashawn her own room, because it would just be so cool for her. And I think it would be really good for her brain also, because this trip is probably going to be a lot. She doesn't travel that often. And there's going to be a bunch of people that she doesn't know. And you know how that can be when you're an introvert. It can be draining and you need to recharge your batteries. And if you can't go anywhere to get away from everyone, it's hard to do that. So yeah, if you're interested in contributing to that, it'd be super awesome. And if you do, you'll get access to a Dropbox that will have 3 recordings of me and Rashawn discussing the Harry Potter movies. We just recorded the episode on movies 4, 5, and 6 over the weekend. We liked 5 pretty well. She really liked 6 until the end. And then she just wanted to throw her computer out the window. And it's pretty great because we had recorded for 2.5 hours and I actually had to cut her off from her ranting because she was just so mad. She rarely gets that. I'm the ranty one usually, but she really was pretty pissed. So I had to be like, hey girl, you know what? Can we pick this up later? 'Cause I kind of gotta go. So that episode will be edited and up this week. So if you have contributed already, keep your eyes out. I will post when it's in the Dropbox, and you can go and find it there as a thank you. So, yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to mention. Is there anything you want to add, sir? Go ahead.
Smash Fiction Podcast. Smash Fiction. Shit. I lost it already. That did not take long. At Smash Fic Podcast on Twitter, we're on Facebook, Tumblr, YouTube, the works. Smash Fiction, pitting characters against one another for fun and profit since 2 years ago. The most recent episode of Smash Fiction, the most recent episode is actually the latest episode of Extraordinary League, which is the monthly actual play RPG that we do with all the Smash Fiction hosts. And if you like Extraordinary League and you haven't listened to the new one, I suggest you go and do that because it's amazing. It was pretty fun. I was there recording it, playing it, but Dan Mulcairn, who's the game master for the bonus content, or the bonus league episodes,
right,
and is also one of the hosts of the show. A while ago, he completely took over production responsibilities for Extraordinary League because it's kind of his baby, and I was feeling a little bit of the workload. I was like, I'll take a week off a month, from editing. So he took over every production element of that show, and he has the entire month to make it just sound fucking glorious. And his choices of music and sound effects and just everything, along with his the stories he comes up with and the brilliant shit that we got to do on this last episode. And I can't say enough about how much fun it was to play in, and how I just finished listening to it today, like the finished product, because he doesn't like tell anyone what he's doing. He doesn't tell us. We don't get to know until we hear it. And I was fucking blown away by this episode. So check that out. If you haven't listened to Extraordinary League, it's a lot of fun. We have an adventuring party composed of myself as Sterling Archer, Stitch of Lilo and Stitch, Morden from Mass Effect, Dante from Devil May Cry, Luna Lovegood, but like a kind of a weird aged up version of Luna Lovegood.
Nice.
And I think and that's it. And it's we have fought Shang Tsung. We went through Jurassic Park. We were in Westeros for a while. And with the big bad of the series being the Phyrexians from Magic the Gathering, and it's this wonderful, huge crossover thing. If you're into it, strongly advise that you go check out Extraordinary League. This Sunday is the first episode of, once again, Smashtoberfest, which are all our horror-themed Smash Fiction episodes. And actually, if you're listening to this, you will particularly enjoy, in all likelihood, this Sunday's podcast, because if you're listening to this, it means you probably like Stephen King. And this Sunday's episode is a match between Jack Torrance of The Shining versus Annie Wilkes from Misery.
Ew.
And I can tell you right now, it is legitimately great in terms of just the hilarious arguments that came up. I thought it was one of our better episodes. If it's bad, I'm probably not going to tell you. I want to be upfront about that. But like, this one is actually good. So check that out. That'll come out on Smash Fiction this coming Sunday. And if you really, really like it, and you just love our podcast so much, and you want to get like, all our cool bonus content, then you can go to Patreon and become a patron. Patreon.com/SmashFictionPodcast. Most recently, our patrons got access to a song written by the wonderful and completely insane Liz Logan about the fact that Dante Sparta doesn't like wearing shirts. And she plays every instrument in this song, I should point out. Liz sings, plays guitar, plays bass, does percussion, all at once. And I just imagine she has like 6 arms, so she can do that. So that's just one of the many awesome things that you get when you become a Smash patron. So go check that out. Also go check out, please, the Odyssey Storytelling Podcast. I am increasingly becoming it's not like I wasn't invested in it before, but like, we're making some changes to the show, and I'm really excited about it.
Nice.
So you should go check out the Odyssey Storytelling Podcast. All the shit's on iTunes and Podcast Addict and Stitcher and wherever you get your podcasts. We just came out with a new episode of Odyssey Storytelling recently, which was the Transformation episode. So we had to move to a new venue, and we didn't have our sound quite figured out.
Oh, no.
So the Transformation episode does not sound wonderful, but all it needs to do for this show, and usually, this is a one-time thing, like the sound is going to get better, but the stories that were told for the Transformation episode are really amazing. There's some funny stuff about like faith healing, and I will say there is one of the single most touching stories that I've ever heard, which is about a woman realizing that she's a woman and not the married man with children that she thought she was.
Right on. And
it's an incredible episode of storytelling. It's on Odyssey Storytelling Podcast right now. And Odyssey Storytelling Podcast, by the way, is now weekly, starting now. So there is actually going to be a new episode up this Thursday, which is a special night of storytelling that we recorded recently here in Tucson, Arizona, which was for a breast cancer benefit. The name of the episode is called "Thanks for the Memories." That was not my idea, but I do think it's funny. So stories from breast cancer survivors, or people who were close to breast cancer survivors, or people who were close to people who didn't survive breast cancer, or doctors. Like, this really is like, I want to emphasize to everyone how awesome this show is, and just I love hearing people tell stories from their lives, and everybody has something to tell. They're fascinating. Strongly encourage you to check it out, and if you do, and if you like it, please leave us a review. Please subscribe. We just started out, and we need to grow this thing because I think it's really important to get out there. So thank you so much for doing me that favor, if indeed you do. And if not, go fuck yourself. And also go to universesofthemind.com for my sci-fi blog, universesofthemind.com, while you are going and fucking yourself. So I think that's
because it has such sexy content. Is that a jerk-off blog? No?
Yes. If that drives traffic, you know me, baby. I'm all about those clicks.
They're
all about those numbers.
I'm like, that's what they're called, right? Jerk-off blogs?
Yeah, for sure.
That's what Pornhub's labeled under. Actually, you reminded me there was something else that I had meant to mention, which is that October, I am doing Unspooked, which
yes, Unspooked is back.
Did you listen to the most recent one that I put out?
No, I haven't heard it yet. I want to, though.
What reminded me was you talking about your friend doing like music and stuff and getting a little into it. Like,
yeah,
it took me a while to really understand what I wanted Unspooked to even be, and then last week I had edited it and I thought I was done. And then I discovered the GarageBand sound effects board.
Oh, no.
I didn't go crazy with it. There's like, it's very carefully done, but I feel like it's really effective. And I listened to it after and went out and like had a conversation with Owen and watched a show and ate dinner and then took a walk by myself and was listening to something totally other. And I was still fucking creeped out and had to like rush home, because I was getting myself a little spooked. So I think it really kind of gets in your brain. And it doesn't matter what you pledge at. If you're a patron, you will get access to the Unspooked episodes. I'm doing one a week. I have to do the one for this week. I think I'm going to try and record it on Thursday. And they're all stories that are allegedly true stories that happen to people that they submit to different websites, different forums, things like that. And I find them and basically read them practically verbatim. And it just, some of them are really fucking creepy, man. Some of them are just the sort of thing that, like, just reading the words. I actually had to have Owen come and sit in the office with me when I recorded this time, because the last time I recorded, and he was in the house, he was in the living room, it wasn't enough. I needed him to be there so the things didn't get me. Like, just...
It's funny. So the the October Odyssey show, the live show that we're doing this coming Thursday, actually, is the Haunted show.
Nice.
And I'm actually telling a story on this one, and that story may or may not involve a haunted Pizza Hut in Montgomery, Alabama.
Yes!
So.
I really like my mom. I was telling her about that, my mom, and she was like, "He should call into Jim Harold's campfire with that. It's a call-in, like, where you share your spooky story, and he'll actually put the recording of you talking on his show."
Oh, nice.
Which is not my jam. I tried listening to it, and let's face it, most people are garbage at telling stories. So, and he doesn't like edit them in the way I feel they deserve to be edited. So, and nobody writes their story down and does it from that. They always have to like, well, so I was, and it's just like, oh, brother. But yeah. So I was like, when she told me, oh, he should do that, I was like, yeah, no, he really shouldn't. Like, no. But this way it'll be much better if you're doing it on your own thing. Good call.
Yeah.
Because that's such a weird story. What?
I know. I love it so much. I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I'm going to be doing this thing. I'm going to be telling the Haunted Pizza Hut story. And she's like, what are you talking about? She didn't remember. I'm like, how the fuck did you forget the Montgomery, Alabama?
Like, when you told her, did it jog a memory at all? Or did she still not? Do you think you dreamed it?
Huh?
Do you think you dreamed it?
No, I know for a fact that I did not dream that shit.
Did your dad remember?
He wasn't there.
That's infuriating.
That absolutely fucking happened, and she has no memory of it. It's so weird.
Oh my god, her mind was wiped by the aliens.
I mean, that's my thought.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. So Unspookled, guys. It's the season. I'm doing it. It's super fun. And I am thinking about at some point maybe releasing like one episode so that you guys can get a sense of what it is to everybody to listen to. Just as a very special Halloween treat. Mwah.
Yeah.
Tasty. All right. Well, that's all we've got for tonight. So thank you everyone so much for listening. If you're interested in becoming a patron, go to patreon.com/unspoiledpod. You can find us on Facebook at patreon.com/unspoiled, facebook.com/unspoiledpod, Twitter @unspoiledshow, Instagram @unspoiledpodcast.
Not just me.
There's so many. Oh my God. So yeah, go find us, friend us, like us, follow us, heart us. There's so many different ways to do this. It's too many verbs. Just be a friend of the show. We love you. We'll see you next week. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.